Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 223, which is called Inojin vs. Hoki. So we begin the one-on-one matchups, and also we begin to learn a little bit more about, I suppose, the kind of side plot that we have going on here, or of what are these mysterious kind of enemy ninjas, thugs, whatever way you want to call them, that have entered the village. What are they up to? What's going on with this plot? So, getting into that side of things first, so we can leave the fight until the end. I liked that they used Himawari as the sort of gateway to bringing Boruto and Mitsuki into this plot. That Himawari is actually friends with the two people she met during the kind of test day at the academy, and that they're basically setting up the idea of here's Himawari's three-man team. She's continuing to do ninja training herself, which I like that they just bring it up. It's been so long since we've realized that, oh yeah, Himawari is actually training. She does want to be a ninja herself. So it was nice to see them running around doing the kind of ninja run, and that they are the ones who actually witness the suspicious people kind of wandering around the village, and she goes to tell Boruto as the other two sort of surveil them to see what's actually going on. So that was nice. That made a lot of sense, showing that kind of Himawari is, cautious, but is making the right choices, that realizing that they're not even in the academy yet, so they are not at the level where they should take on suspicious people in the village. So she goes to tell her brother and Mitsuki. And this is the thing that is going to distract them from potentially participating in the tuning exams, because they're off on this train heading away from the village, trying to get Amado back, which is an interesting plot in itself, that these thugs they've come to steal Amado for some reason, and then the mystery of they get up to the front cart where they think Amado should be, and there's nothing there, and they're kind of wait, did they jump off halfway during the journey? But it creates this situation where Boruto and Mitsuki are now miles away from the village, and even if they got off here, they'd have to walk or run back to the village. Are they going to make it back to the exams in time? Because they set up the idea that if you are not present in the arena when your name is drawn for your fight, you are basically disqualified. So we know the final match, as far as we're aware, is going to be Mitsuki Boruto. So it's just going to be look at the draw, that the other 8 competitors get drawn out first. We'll see if they do a thing where maybe they get drawn before, but they give them more time by moving up the next match. But the dynamic at the moment is that will they or won't they make it? Now, it sets up the dynamic of what way are they going to do this? Will we actually get to see a Boruto Mitsuki fight, or will they have Boruto and Mitsuki sort of earn the rank of tuning by fulfilling this mission? Because we still have to get Amado back. It's not just a case of Boruto and Mitsuki are going to be whatever happened, we'll get back to the exams. They're involved in this now. They're going to get Amado back, so they're going to have to investigate this, and I assume, at the very least, they're going to push it up to the very limit of the timeline, or they're going to be late and get back. Kind of like Boruto crossing the line for the second part of the exam, a second too late. I get the feeling that they'll arrive at the arena just that little bit late. Now, it is interesting that the two people who are going to fight each other are both going to be missing from the exam, unless they do some sort of split up thing where Mitsuki makes it back first or something like that. But I don't think they're going to do that. So my predictions are that they'll give them the rank of tuning for fulfilling this mission while the exam was going on. To Genin at this point in time, basically solving a kidnapping on their own. Pretty impressive if they do that. Then the question is obviously does that earn it for them, or do they still need to do the one-on-one fight? Because that fight is sort of the main event of this. That, sure, sorry to Chocho when we get there, is going to be pretty hype, and it should have emotion to it because they're best friends. But Mitsuki Boruto has a little bit more to it because they're both characters who, Boruto is sort of the most important person to Mitsuki. And then Mitsuki is also important to Boruto because remember, we had that arc where sort of Mitsuki left the village and we got across the kind of reverse dynamic as well. So these two are really, really close. And while I think there's always going to be an element of just like competitiveness to build up a fight between the two of them, it will be interesting to see how they do that if they go for it. Because obviously people are thinking Karma versus Sage Mode. But will it get that far? Because you'd think, otherwise, these two should be a dead match for each other. That this fight should not be ending before they need to draw out their maximum power. And I can see the village not wanting this to happen, especially because Boruto is on the pills to suppress the karma. Why would they allow Boruto to use karma in the fight that could amplify and speed up the process of him becoming an Otsutsuki? So I can see them maybe doing something like that, where like it's dead even. They both charge up their attacks. Mitsuki goes Sage Mode, Boruto goes Karma, and then like Naruto and Konohamaru stop the fight before they clash because okay, look, we can see you two are both incredible. We're gonna have to just end this and give you both the rank, because that's the thing here. Like, Sarada is going to beat Chocho and get that rank. I think the result of the fight that we got in this episode pretty much confirms that that's going to happen. And it makes sense from a character point of view. Sarada, as the leader of Team 7, has to get that rank. The Mitsuki Boruto one could go either way, where you make the decision to have all of Team 7 become tunings, or you do the thing like I think they're going to do across most of these fights, which is spread the ranks so that you basically have a tuning on basically every team. So that brings us into the actual fight from this episode, Inojin versus Hoki, which was one I called before I even knew the episode title, so that was kind of interesting. The big thing here is that it's sort of a showcase for Hoki more so than Inojin. Inojin's showing in this fight was solid, but not crazy impressive. Just the fact that the Super Beast Scroll, it gave him nice movement, but otherwise seemed to just be a distraction and not really any sort of a way to really accomplish all that much in the fight. They used it kind of cleverly to a degree where, because it creates a paint splatter on the environment, he created a further distraction with that. But the setup for this fight was that, okay, I'm going to have to use the mind transfer jutsu to win this, and if that doesn't work, I'm done. Whereas with Hoki, you go in and you're like, we barely even know what his skill set is at all. Yet they reveal to us that he's Anbu and has been training with Sai all this time. So he should be really good. Like this was the real showcase that you've been sleeping on this character. He's actually amazing. And you felt like, okay, he's dominating the early stages of this fight. Are they going to reverse this in the end and have Inojin win? But then they had Inojin take over with the mind transfer and then the reversal in Hoki's favor. Getting across that, Inojin came close to beating someone super impressive like Hoki, but it wasn't close enough, and that the Anbu training here actually came through, because the counter to the mind transfer jutsu is the jutsu that the Anbu have to resist basically getting information kind of leaked and their kind of mind, all the information taken. So that was cool, kind of creepy moment as well. I thought for a second that like, oh, he's using Earth style in this fight. Has Inojin mind transferred like an Earth clone or something like that? Mud clone or something? But no, it was just meant to be the resistance sort of jutsu, which is pretty high level, and that reversal is what gives Hoki the win. The fight before that is basically defined by Hoki uses Earth style and changes the environment. Now, I think, what was it? It was Iwabe, I think, who reacted to the jutsu, and other than that, no one else really did, but I'm assuming everyone watching the episode probably had the same reaction of like, whoa, that's an insanely massive Earth-style jutsu, where that's well beyond sort of Genin, Chunin level. That feels like, you know, Jonin, like kind of almost Hokage level uh, jutsu. That the whole environment of the arena he fills with giant earth pillars to create a labyrinth. And then he's able to use another kind of wide, pretty like big earth style jutsu to knock Inojin's Super Beast Scroll bird out of the sky. So very like wide ranging, powerful jutsu that he uses straight off the bat, like no build up. That was super impressive. Now he didn't use too much earth style jutsu over the course of the fight, and it was just that same move twice. But they didn't really note that it was like crazy impressive. That they were more like the way you resisted that mind transfer jutsu. That was the high level move, and then we're just like, we'll just clear up the arena. Like, what arena? He just like broke it again with that how wide scale his jutsu was. That was the story of this fight for me, because that's what engineered the situation where like Inojin couldn't do all that much. The other thing they got across with Hoki, of course, is that he remembers everything that he sees. So when he creates the labyrinth of kind of earth pillars, he just starts running around, and everyone's kind of wondering like, what's he doing? I get he's trying to confuse him to a degree, but he's not going in for the attack. Why is he just like running in a circle basically? And Sai informs them that like, oh, he's probably just like remembering the entire labyrinth. Now, the only thing I'll say about this is that ultimately that didn't really come into play all that much, because like I thought what they were going to do was they were going to have a thing where like you really got across the idea that Hoki now knows the environment completely. So Inojin is running blind through it, and then Hoki like cuts him off at every turn. And they kind of got that across, but I thought it was a really cool setup that just amounted to rather basic I'll sneak up on you type stuff. So the choreography was like fine, but the fight was actually rather basic when you really break it down, because it was just the big move off the start. Hoki analyzes the arena. Inojin had a flurry right at the beginning as well, where he used Super Beast Scroll. And then it was just kunai, kunai, kunai. So Inojin has a few cuts. He's injured, so he's a bit desperate. He flies into the sky. That's taken out. Inojin gets the distraction as he comes down from the sky. So I suppose what was theoretically Hoki's finisher here is kind of messed up with some last minute Super Beast Scroll stuff. But beyond that, it's just, okay, I need to use Mind Transfer. And he sort of initially gets the advantage over Hoki because he's like, oh, I'll distract him with a paintbrush here. So he'll know that I'm in or around this area. I'll go up next to this pillar. And I know he's suspicious of my Mind Transfer Jutsu. So he's going to try and hit my blind spot. So the second I sense any sort of danger, I just immediately turn around to my blind spot and fire off the Mind Transfer Jutsu. And that should be the victory. That's exactly what happens. But of course, Hoki has the Anbu counter to any sort of mind manipulation jutsu. Very solid showing from Hoki in that like he rises way up the ranks, in that out of the top 10 that we have here, this straight away obviously puts him in the top 5. And obviously it depends on writing wise where they decide to go with the results of a lot of these fights, but this, he definitely feels like one of the best. It feels like we haven't just ignored other characters. That, no, like Sai says, this team has worked themselves from the bottom, a forgettable team, to being one of the best. So super well earned from Hoki, and I hope we see him more as we go through this, because this was very impressive, because he did the giant big scale jutsu. He was clever. He felt like Kakashi to a degree in sort of the way he fought. Even having a sort of visual based power with the kind of memory of everything he sees. That is nice to see. So good showing there, and this fight and this happening here, They immediately broke the idea of, they set up with the scene in the barbecue restaurant, and they said it again before this, all of Inoshika-cho, we're all going to become tuning together. Well, Inojin losing means that isn't going to happen, so now it feels like there's no real benefit as such to having Cho beat Sarada, because I think now at this point, having 2 out of 3 members of Inoshika-cho have the tunings doesn't feel like the right way to go. So Sarada obviously I think is going to get that victory, but like I said, that fight and how it plays out should be one of the better ones. So the setup for next time out is that we're going to have Iwabe against Wasabi. Now I think this is pretty obvious that this was a fight that they were going to do. The question is, what way do they go with the victories here? Because this means that the other fight, the 4th fight, is going to be Denki against Tsubaki. So the 2 members from each of the teams facing the other members, basically. I think they'll split the victories, one for one team, one for the other. I can't see a way where like Iwabe and Denki both become tuning, or Tsubaki and Wasabi both become tuning. I think they will split it. Now, they've added the interesting plot dynamic into this, where it's more than just combat abilities, there's also sort of the emotional arc to consider. And that is that Tsubaki is being sort of summoned back to the Land of Iron. And so the team is potentially going to be split up again. And I think that's the dynamic they're setting up going into the start of this fight, that Wasabi is actually very upset about Tsubaki leaving, and her not being very, like, emotional as such about it being very kind of nonchalant. So she might be off her game initially, but the name of the episode is very much referring to her. So that will be interesting to consider again, because if Tsubaki is going back to the Land of Iron, I can't see her winning and then effectively leaving the story unless we are involved with the samurai again. So my initial take is that Denki will beat Tsubaki, and he'll be the tuning on his team. And then Wasabi will beat Iwabe, so she'll be the tuning on her team. That way, that team of her and Namida and potentially Tsubaki have a consistent leader, even if Tsubaki goes back. And I think it almost fits in a way that Tsubaki's almost maybe overconfident going into her fight, thinking that, like, yeah, I'll go back to the Land of Iron successful as a tuning. But if she were to lose, I think it would maybe give her more of a reason to stick around to maybe prove herself some more. And realize that, wait, actually, like, Wasabi's the leader of the team, not me, type thing. Because she is the newer member of the team, so I can maybe see them doing that. And the fact that they've created a whole rule about you can now use scientific ninja tools, I struggle with the idea that they're just going to introduce that and then have the scientific ninja tool user fail, potentially. But who knows? They could subvert a lot of the sort of expectations here. But my prediction probably is, yeah, I think Wasabi will beat Iwabe. It's going to be an interesting fight because Iwabe is known for being like pretty good at jutsu and a good fighter. So these are the two sort of brawlers in a way of their team. I definitely would like to see a little bit more from Wasabi because she obviously has that kind of like cat transformation jutsu, and that's cool. But I'd like to see like what her next level is, what she'll be pushed to get through what I assume is going to be a lot of physical. Iwabe should like physically, I suppose, dominate the fight. Maybe speed wise, not so much. Jutsu wise, he's also, I suppose, going to be using a lot of earth style as well. So she needs something, I think, to just give her a little bit more of a power boost. Because you usually associate the power on that team comes from Tsubaki's sword techniques, and then Nomida's kind of scream beam attack. But yeah, I think that's probably the way to go with this. I just think Iwabe doesn't really have much of a story going into this, because in the first two stages of the exam, he's sort of just been like there and thereabouts. Whereas like Denki at least has the story of like he's the underdog. He's the one who isn't really good at jutsu, and he's the ninja tool representative on the team. So it makes sense. Like they've hyped him up. They haven't really hyped up Iwabe, but like in this episode, they gave focus to both Hoki and Inojin. They're going to give Iwabe some focus in the next episode, and if that's strong enough, it could be enough to switch sort of where I'm feeling the way things will go. I just feel it would be weird for Denki as the full-on tactical leader of his team, because basically Iwabe and Metal are just not tactical guys at all. It makes sense for Denki to be the tuning leader of his team. And I think it would mean a lot for the story for him to get it as well. So I think that's pretty much everything I want to talk about here. My main hopes going forward are just that, like, I was very happy that they made the right decision, I think, with the writing of the victories here, to give the victory to the sort of lesser character, and they didn't feel the need to like just give Inojin the win because he's the more important character, that we're going to see Shikacho more in the story than we'll see Hoki. It makes more sense to give the victory and the tuning title to Hoki from one of the other teams, Anbu, and because they showed that he has that sort of dream that, like Kakashi, an Anbu member can go on to become the Hokage, and just showing that he has some ambition to go further and be like his hero Kakashi. So, that was really good to see. The stories that they're telling across with the characters here are good. I just hope that, especially with the Boruto Mitsuki fight, that they don't have too much shenanigans that get in the way of the actual exam. I hope they either make the decision to just give them the tuning title on the basis of succeeding in their mission, or they have the fight. Any sort of a weird thing where they both get disqualified, or only one of them gets disqualified, I think it's going to be really, really weird and unsatisfying. Because the big thing that I don't want them to do is to just feel that because Boruto is the main character, he can't just earn this title. In a way, I'd be shocked if they almost did it easily and just had Boruto become a tuning. Because I'm expecting some sort of a like screwy finish at some point in this. That means Boruto doesn't get the rank of tuning, even though everything about his arc should be him getting it, in my opinion. So that's my thoughts on it. So next time out we have Iwabe and Wasabi, so that's going to be pretty good. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this episode. But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.